Hello, my name is John Graves and I'm with Oracle, and I've been doing quite a bit of work with the Oracle IoT Cloud Service and various devices and getting the data in there and taking a look at various ways of doing that. And I got a hold of a device from Bosch called the XDK. It's a development kit that shows off their different sensors, but in a nice little package to make that a little bit easier. I don't know if these were really intended to be used specifically, certainly not in mass quantities, but it allows you to try out the various Bosch sensors and then decide if that's something that meets the requirements for whatever IoT environment, and then asking Bosch to build out custom kind of sensors based on that. But it can be used for smaller quantities, maybe the 10 to 20, maybe even up to 100 devices. And so I wanted to prototype this and see how we can get this data into our IoT cloud service. So right now it has a set of code that is running on the device that's been flashed on there. And there's a small SD card that's in there that I use for the configuration data. And I also log to that device if there's an error. So ideally you can just take this without any screen or any computers, plug the SD card in with your configuration, boot it up, and then know if any problems do happen, you can just pull the SD card back out, take a look at the log, and see what happened. But I'll just give it a little demo here. There's a little on and off switch on the side. So if I turn it on, you can see the little light flash there for a second. And I have it set up so that you can see there's going to be an orange light comes on. That happens when the Wi-Fi is connected successfully. And then occasionally you'll see this little yellow light flash, ideally. There it went, just a little tiny flash. That says that it's sending all of the sensor data off this every time that flashes. I can increase and decrease the frequency of that flash by pressing one of the two buttons. I can hit the little button down here, the little single dot. It reduces the frequency, so you can see it's happening a little bit more frequent. I can increase that quite a bit. Now you can see it's sending data real often and then back. And we're able to see that data go onto the computer, which I'll show you in just a second here. So the first thing I want to do is just show a little bit more about what this device is kind of about. So if I come over here and look at the Bosch website, we can see that it is a 32-bit controller. It has a lot of different sensors here for accelerometer and gyroscope, magnetometer, humidity, pressure, temperature, acoustic, daylight. So all these things are there. And we want to get all of this into the Oracle Cloud Service to be able to send data and be able to get data, as you can see from here. So what we need to do is go to the downloads and get the development kit environment. There is a workbench for various environments. So Linux is what I was using here. You can download that, and that brings up the SDK environment, which you can see here, and it's really just simply an Eclipse plugin. So as you can see in the top left, there's this settings for the XDK itself, and that is just a plugin to allow you to communicate with the XD device. So on the XD device, there's a USB port. So if you plug that in to your USB, which I'll do right now, and take a look at the screen, just watch the top corner there, and you'll see. Plug it in right now. We'll see that it shows it communicating, and it's connected now to the device. When it's connected to the device, you'll see that there is some logs coming out. This is any kind of printf statement that I do shows up in this log, so it's really good for debugging or testing things out and seeing if anything goes wrong. Not necessarily if it's all working well, but it's a good way of debugging. Or if any code is modified in here, then it can just be reflashed or rebooted. Just from a code point of view, what I did is I took a lot of the samples from the Bosch website and mashed them up a bit. So I have, if I just kind of go through the stream sensor data over REST is what I call it, because it takes all the data and just makes REST calls into a Node.js environment that then sends it up into IoT Cloud Service for Oracle. So I have the two files here to deal with the WAN configuration, so hooking into a network, it gets its information from the SD cards. The SD card has this configuration, and it's basically looking for a few items. It looks for the name, description, location, the Wi-Fi, SID and password, the bridge URL that it's expecting to then go and send the data to this location. So it needs to also define the port. It figures out the port from the slashes and so forth. So that's what the SD card code does. And the sensor code is where all of the real work is done. And this goes through and it just uses all of the sample code that I could find for getting the various sensor data and building up in a very crude manner up here. We'll see this this payload that has some JSON data. So here we go, name, description, location, very simple. And then when it's running, you can see it sends this particular data over to a given environment here. Once this data gets into this bridge code, that bridge code then forwards it on to our IoT cloud service, which we can then see up and running. And if I refresh this, we should see some more data, 2382. Now it's all the way up to 600. So I've got it sending quite a bit of data here. And this is all the data from the Bosch. The only thing that else to really keep in mind is that in order to receive messages from this environment, you need to run a bit of code to create the device in the Oracle IoT Cloud Service. So basically, getting the data off of this, the sensor data off of these things was quite simple. I did have a simple bridge to then put it into the Oracle IoT Cloud Service, but overall pretty straightforward and a lot of very powerful features, especially the accelerometers and the tilt sensors and the acoustic sensors to know how loud it is in a given room, those kind of things. So pretty simple to set up. It's got a bit of a battery, so it does run without being connected for a little while, but not very long. So it's typically, I think it's would be better to have plugged in somewhere where you can have a USB power source continuously running it. But that's pretty much it. Neat little device. I do want to mention that there is a bit of an issue with some of the header information on sending REST calls. I documented that on the blog, so you can take a look at that and see. Hopefully Bosch will allow header modifications in the code to be able to fix that. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy, cool device, more IoT stuff. Awesome. Thank you.